Talking with the experts.
Episode 265 with Joy Nordenstrom.
Definitely. And so that's one of the patterns that I look at is an attachment pattern. So primarily in the work of Dr. John Bowlby, we see that you have either a primary and a secondary. People always have as anxiously attached, avoidantly attached, or securely attached. And then you'll have a combination of primary and secondary. When you've had more trauma or more misattunement with your primary caregiver, you're going to see that anxious side comes into your adult life. And as a child, you know that they are the best at body reading, body language connection. They have to get all their needs met without, communicating with words and much else. So they regulate, and when their primary caregiver gives them what they need, but then the primary caregiver is not in attunement when the mirror neurons are syncing up and spindle cells are connecting, that they're not getting that smile like, oh, yippee, I got fed. Oh, yippee, like I've got my diapers changed. And the smile is not happening in reciprocation. What happens is the child is still trying to figure out what can I do? What can I do to get this, response that I need? So
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and today my guest is Joy Nordenstrom, and Joy is from Joy of Romance Incorporated. And today we're going to be discussing how we can understand our relationship patterns and increase our overall emotional intelligence. And when you understand your top relationship patterns, you will be able to understand more of your strengths and weaknesses, and in turn, teach those you work for and with how best to work with you and get the best from your performance. And so Joy's going to fill us all in about the research and what she does and how she does this. Welcome, Joy, and thank you so much for joining me today.
welcome, Rose. It's a delight to be here in my evening, your day.
Yes, it's late afternoon here, so yeah, it's getting towards the end of the workday for me. So, okay, tell me a little bit more about you're a relationship mentor, a private investigator for your clients' hearts, and the host of Intelligent Love. Tell me about how you help your clients.
Yes. Well, I help people who, in a personal setting, both people who are single and those who are in relationship. And I also do a lot of work with people in business and just helping them know how to navigate their teams, how to become more emotionally tuned to who it is that's working with them, how to choose wisely if they're going to hire new staff. And so I have many different avenues, but across the board, I look at 10 relationship patterns as kind of that umbrella to make the blueprint of who somebody is in relationship to others.
So would you like to, go through some of the steps there that you go through?
Yes, it really depends on, who it is that I'm working with and what setting. So different for business and relationships, but overarchingly, I just feel that if somebody can understand um, who they are, they can translate that more easily to who it is that they're working with. So there's some of these patterns that are just core to who we are, so they're not going to shift no matter what. So knowing them so we're not blindly piloted by them is a really good idea. Also, when we see those 10, sometimes there's oil and water combinations in and of our own pattern. So we might inadvertently be confusing someone and we don't understand that we were. And then we almost always have something that's a weaker link. It might not come out all the time, but when we're really stressed and under pressure, then we go into autopilot and these weaker links might come out. So if we can understand what those are, then we'll be able to, one, understand ourselves better, to be able to translate that to the people that we're both working with, in relationship with, so that they can help us in that time with hopefully some tools on bringing us back to our best, most stable self.
So research over the last 2 decades, it points to the fact that individuals who have a higher EQ, level of emotional intelligence, consequently, or consistently, sorry, make more money on average than others who don't have such a high level. And so EQ is better than IQ. Can you explain the difference, please?
Yes. So emotional intelligence is our ability to attune to ourselves, to be able to attune to others, to be able to use motivation and being able to move forward, and also being able to regulate and kind of assess the climate of a group in those patterns also. And just regular intelligence is, book smart, street smart, understanding what it is that your topic of intelligence. But over time, we see that it's really the people who can relate to the people and manage and work with a team are the ones that are going to be moving forward, both in where they are in the structure of the business, and then also, how well they're liked and how much money they're making.
So I guess to be able to use emotion, I suppose, would be. And I had a guest on yesterday who we were discussing emotions and how we use them in business to build teams and so forth. How does your system allow for leaders in businesses to broaden their emotional intelligence?
In many different ways, but I'll take one of the patterns and give you some examples on that. So the work of Dr. Helen Fisher, she's one of my mentors and also been a dear friend for over 17 years now. And she was our premier social anthropologist in America, senior professor at Rutgers, the first person to put people into an fMRI to watch what their brain was doing when they were in love. And prior to that, when she was just observing people in small towns and small, tribes and bigger towns as she continued to move up, she really didn't think that we had more than a 4-year cycle with people. And then it would look like 4 to 7 years, and then we'd find the next best thing. So in her personal life too, she didn't believe in the one for most of the time until she did this study. And she was blown away by the fact that people who had been married 10 to 40 years were lighting up just like they had fallen in love. And those patterns looking like your brain is running on cocaine. And so right around that time that she did that pivotal study with Arthur Aaron from Storybrooke University, eHarmony here in America had this big magical test they were giving everyone. And so she was approached by Match.com and all of its properties, and they said, oh, we need a test and we want it to be scientifically based. Here, here's all our data points from the beginning of our history. And I was friends with somebody who was helping put that research together for her. And she's like, wow, this is curious. Half the population is attracted to a very similar type of personality. Other half is attracted to the polar opposite. Wonder what's going on there. As she looked further, there was 4 personality types that came to the surface. Each of those had a higher receptor for certain combination of love drugs in their system that they were born with. So when I've been giving this personally to people for 17 years, she's been giving it to the masses for 17 years. So we've had some really fun conversations about this, but it helps me immensely when I'm putting people together, because when you see there's this classic, I think most of the people who are going to be they all are, the founders of companies are going to be running on something called Explore, dopamine and norepinephrine. They go, wow, and they look at the world with a sense of wonder and curiosity. They love to perpetually learn and grow. And usually they will have 2 others that are going to be really high in these patterns. And it's almost always something called director, which is running on testosterone and adrenaline. So it's like they see all those wondrous things, then they choose one, and then they go, okay, I'm going to get to that end goal. And they just go, 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 full tilt boogie. And they either have as a third this one called Builder, which is run on serotonin. So they really understand the structure on how to put the little details in place. or they have negotiator. If they have negotiator, they're going to be more charismatic. They're going to be able to appeal to more to people. One of the classic negotiators that has this combination of all three is Bill Clinton, where he could attune to the person and how they were asking a question and tailor the response back to that individual. So it was very different how he spoke to each person, and he could cheerlead the person from where they were. So when you have that negotiator in there, you're running more an estrogen. And there's a classic, you've got more, it's called the cheeks come out. I want to pinch you cheeks, I call them. And you can see that ability come out more in people that have that, to be able to attune to the people. Whereas if they don't have that and they're just running in these other three, they would serve them well to be able to have somebody that would be their right-hand person that has a lot of negotiator, so that they can really use that as a buffer and an understanding, so they don't inadvertently step on somebody's toes as they're pulling them along to the finish line.
Yeah. Well, that's all very fascinating. I don't know. I don't know where I fit in. I've got the little pinch me cheeks, but I don't know that I'm a negotiator.
I bet you have a lot of it just with what you do and how you are such a people person and that you like to communicate very well. So I bet you do have a lot of it.
Oh, maybe I just don't think of it that way. I think it's just that I just like to talk.
Cute.
Yeah, I've got this. The person I was talking to yesterday is quite a good friend of mine, and I think I might put you in touch with each other, because you are on very similar planes of ideas and what you do. But yours is a bit more scientific than his is. But he's a profiler, and that's what he teaches. He reads faces, and he teaches other people how to read faces. And he goes out
I
to
do that.
businesses. And
I
I
would
think it'll be absolutely fascinating. So when we finish up today, I will introduce you both. I think it will be a fabulous collaboration between the two of you.
Definitely. And that's actually one of the things I read faces with the work of Dr. Ellen Fisher. I also studied with Dr. Paul Ekman, who created the facial action coding system and Chinese facial reading. So it is, I think, super important and just something that most people don't see that way. But I've been looking at it, so I would love to talk to somebody else that has that as one of their superpowers.
Yeah, that's one of his, trust me. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that people who suffered trauma or have, lived through trauma, especially as children, are very good at reading faces, because they have to know when it's safe and when it's not safe. And usually as adults, they're quite good at reading other people and, getting the measure of them. So, whether they're a trustworthy person or they're not. And, usually within about 3 minutes, I can pick somebody that says, and I can say, well, I like you because of this reason, or I don't like you because you've triggered something in me that is a bad thing. And, I don't know whether, because I lived through childhood trauma, so maybe that's where that comes from. But do you think that is the case?
Definitely. And so that's one of the patterns that I look at is an attachment pattern. So primarily in the work of Dr. John Bowlby, we see that you have either a primary and a secondary. People always have as anxiously attached, avoidantly attached, or securely attached. And then you'll have a combination of primary and secondary.
Have you been thinking about starting a podcast? You can share your knowledge and expertise with people globally. Create original content that is completely unique from anything else out in today's market, not just in terms of style, but also perspective. And when we talk about revenue generating potential, well, let me tell you, it doesn't stop there. The time to start is now. You know that you should be doing it. However, many people are reluctant because they don't know how to produce it or what tools they need to do their podcast. Please feel free to email me at guest@talkingwiththeexperts.com today, and let's talk about how I can help you to build authority and credibility for your business through podcasting. Remember, don't wait for the opportunity, create it.
When you've had more trauma or more misattunement with your primary caregiver, you're going to see that anxious side comes into your adult life. And as a child, you know that they are the best at body reading, body language connection. They have to get all their needs met without, communicating with words and much else. So they regulate, and when their primary caregiver gives them what they need, but then the primary caregiver is not in attunement when the mirror neurons are syncing up and spindle cells are connecting, that they're not getting that smile like, oh, yippee, I got fed. Oh, yippee, like I've got my diapers changed. And the smile is not happening in reciprocation. What happens is the child is still trying to figure out what can I do? What can I do to get this, response that I need? So when you see that pattern, when you go into their adult life, they keep that hyper awareness of their situation and their ability to connect with people. And you'll often hear a very intuitive, very aware. The one thing you want to watch out though is if something is wrong with somebody that you're attuning to, that you really care for, if something's wrong with them or you sense something is off, more often than not, you'll start going to what did I do or what can I do to fix it? And that's where you just got to have to be careful. Be like, okay, you can have that. I just don't need to put it on myself. So,
oh God, I'm a fixer. If I see somebody that's got an issue and I can sense that they've got a problem, I just have to go and try and fix them. It's just, yeah, I have to. I don't know why, I just have to.
well, I'm sure that makes a lot of people appreciate you.
Yeah. In the workplace, this can be a good thing to have, but it can also be a bad thing. In my mind, I think my children call me overprotective, and maybe that's in the workplace that becomes that as well. Or it's like the micromanager, because you want to make sure that that everything's going to plan and nothing goes awry. Is that the case in this situation?
I would agree. Yeah, I think that it's knowing when that has stepped over a boundary and it's become too personal, instead of going, that person needs to go out. When you're securely attached, what happens as a child is that the child can they've got complete connection with the parent, and they're allowed to go off, bump their knee, come back, cry, get consolation, and then go off and do it again. And so they let them have that space in their togetherness to grow and to evolve. And so when the anxious attachment comes into play, I really think the pandemic has probably instilled that in a lot more people. It's like, no more hand sanitizer. Oh no, don't go too far. Oh, don't sneeze. Oh, like put the mask back on. So I think it's going to be coming out much more in many different ways because of that. But you do see that the person might lose their ability to figure out the problem themselves and to be able to jump in and to try different things without thinking that somebody else is going to get anxious or upset if they're not taking care of business the right way. So sometimes that's really important in businesses where you need something really be done inside of a particular structure in a box. So it could be good to be a manager with that type of style in that. But if you're encouraging people to handle more and more and more and to really take on those upper management roles, they need to have that ability to be creative and brainstorm and to bump their heads and not do it the right way so that they can continue to learn. Even that helps us with our mind when we hit a wall and we keep going. Science has shown that your brain, as you sleep, continues to do this like, how is this puzzle coming together? And it's 2 days after you hit the wall that you usually have that aha and that breakthrough, and the puzzle pieces start fitting together. That is if you're sleeping really well and you're having your sleep in these 3-hour chunks, and you've had at least 2 sets of those 3-hour chunks. They say it's better to have really good sleep and to get that last component of the 3 hours than going to a psychologist for a couple of weeks time. So
I've got into the practice lately. It's if I'm having a problem with something, or I'm trying to organize something, and I'm hit that wall, I say to myself before I go to sleep, what's the solution to the problem? And most often than not, within that 2 days, my subconscious has come to the rescue and lets my conscious know that it was so simple. It's like I was thinking about how to do the backyard, and I was going to put this garden, this like seating area, but it's in full view of the gate, which the gate faces the street, and you can see from the street. I thought, well, that's a really stupid idea. But this is after I'd planned it all out where I was going to put everything, and then my subconscious obviously goes, ding, don't do that. It's a silly idea.
I'm so glad you sat on it for a little while and let that marinate. That's great.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't do it because it would have been a lot of work otherwise. Joy, uh, we've talked a lot about emotional intelligence, emotional well-being, privately and in the workplace as well. But how can we combine the two together? So, when people are having issues at home, and I know that will bring them to work because it's part of who they are, but how can they stress less about the things at home and concentrate more on the things at work? Is there some sort of, formula, some sort of, strategy that they can use?
There's a couple different things. One that it's kind of funny, but I use it when uh, I learned it actually. I was helping do social media for a great grandmother of hypnotherapy in America. And I was hearing all of the big stuff that she was dealing with the people she was seeing throughout the day. And I just asked her at the end of the day, how do you not let that stuff stick on you? Because it seems very like you could take it on and feel it all. And she said, oh, I do this exercise. So it was a combination of what she said, plus what I knew about psychology and happiness psychology and mindfulness that I put together. So and then slightly woo woo, but we're connected energetically on all different fronts. So we would say, like, through our chakras, we're corded and connected to the people that we are working with and thinking about. And so if you can act as if you have these really thick electrical cords, like you've plugged a vacuum cleaner in all these different areas, and you take your fingers and you cut, 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 and then you physically pull these out. And then you go to, I like to do it in a bathroom in front of a mirror. So you have warm water running, and you just go, as you're doing that cutting, you're going, I'm giving you all your energy because I know you can handle it with what you have. I'm going to take back my energy. I'm not going to bring this into this, environment. And I'm just going to pull in all my own reserves so that I can handle what I need to handle. And I'm letting you handle what you need to handle. And when we can be present and mindful in front of each other, that's when we can get to do more of this work. But if I'm not there, this needs to be cut. And so I'm going to just do that ritual when I leave, or right when I get to work in the morning, or maybe after I work out. So I've just got to get that. And then I put my hands like this and I put it under the water source, and I just go, all that residual energy I'm letting go of. And I'm again bringing on my own energy and focus and focus. And then just say 3 words that I want to have to really set the intention for that time period that I'm going to have. So if I'm going into a work project, it might be focus and clarity and, momentum.
Great plan. I think I'll adopt that one. Sounds good. Joy, have you written any books?
I did about 10 years ago. I was hosting a series of really fun dinner parties. I've held 2 different sets. This one was called the Aphrodisiac Affair. So I created how to create the Aphrodisiac Affair dinner party. I would work with 4 different celebrity chefs. One of them was the chef for Good Morning America. Another one had been on what's the Top Chef. And so with that, we were doing these really, really fun, heightening all 5 senses parties. And so I wrote that book in conjunction with that. So it was about a third just talking about aphrodisiacs, then talking about how to have a really interactive, fun dinner party, who to invite, how to, have some talking points. So it was just a lot of fun. I am working on a new book that's in conjunction with my idea. It's called Intelligent love. So I'm excited, hopefully in the not too distant future, that will be seeing the light of day. So
Oh, well done. Yes, I love a good book, especially when it's interesting. I've received some books and they've been a little bit dry, so I'm pretty sure yours won't be. I'm sure it will
no.
be absolutely fascinating and entertaining. Joy, have you got any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Oh, if you can go into the world knowing more about who you are, being very mindful that every time you go out into the world and you see somebody sees you, your mirror neurons are syncing up, your spindle cells are connecting. Whatever's going on back here is having a major impact, like you're shouting with a megaphone at the people around you. And you have such an incredible power to uplift those and inspire those people around you. So make more time to be mindful of what's going on back here and to make that type of impression throughout your day, both in your personal relationships and the people that you come across in your work environment. And I really think that ripple effect is going to have a dramatic impact on the world around you.
We certainly need more of that, especially now. More,
Indeed.
more collaboration, more closeness, more thinking of somebody else rather than yourself. I think, I don't know, maybe you
Yeah.
helped in that way because we are a bit more mindful of others than we used to be, 2 or 3 years ago. I've noticed that with a lot of business owners and in personal relationships. I think it's just something that's had to happen. But yeah, so that's really great advice, and I appreciate that. Joy, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and to discuss emotional intelligence with you today. And I hope you come back again.
I do too. Thank you so much, Rose. I'm so excited that we had this opportunity, and I look forward to meeting some of your other guests that I've heard speak to, but in particular, the person who does the facial reading. So thank you, and just a pleasure to get to know you and hopefully get to know more of your audience in the future.
Lovely. Bye-bye for now.
Bye bye.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.